Back around 2018 to 2019, I was in my watercolor/traditional art phase. I mostly gave up on digital painting and was highly focused on pencil drawings and watercolor paintings. For a year, I focused on drawing figures in the human body, copying faces and buildings in particular, but mostly people. However, when it came to watercolor, I happened to focus more on landscape, buildings, interiors, trees, and etc. Sort of the subjects around those examples. At that time, portrait painting and watercolor wasn't my forte yet, and so I wanted to learn more about it, and during my extremely short break after first year college, because of a required summer school, I found a particular book at the National Bookstore in Manila, and it was Nita Engel's book on how to make watercolor paint by itself. I didn't buy it right away, and so I searched for a book review on it on the internet. And on YouTube, someone did review that book, and it was none other than Liron Yanconsky. Liron Yanconsky was a new YouTuber/artist I found out about during that time. Not only did he aid in my decision to buy Nita Engel's book, but he also has tutorials on watercolor paintings that I could use in my own stuff. If Jazza was to my digital art, Liron was to my watercolor art. Now, not only did he make tutorials, record and explain his processes and learnings, but also made several books as well. In addition, he reviews watercolor books and watercolor artists. To me, this was a man who lived and breathed watercolor. It was as if the medium was made for him. I was so invested in his pursuits that when he would talk about his dreams, the stories he would tell about his art and journey, I was interested in it. The successes he documented, getting his art recognized by a prestigious group, was eye-opening to witness through video. One thing I find of interest about him as well was his paintings of cars. The man loves painting cars, at least at that time. But moving on with the memories I have about him in the past, in that summer of 2019 where I had to go to school to study some minor subjects, I got into learning more and leveling up my watercolor skills. When I got to school, the dormitory was packed, and for a big guy like me, I was shoved in the top bunk of a bed in a room with 3 other people. It was rather crammed, but I made it work. I took the space I could, and most importantly, I was able to have an area to do art stuff. Concurrently at that time, I was making my first finished animation and making a base cardboard helmet for my Dead Space cosplay. But besides those activities, a major part that has always been present not only during this time, but for whenever I lived in my dorm, was watercolor painting. And in that summer, as I have said, I wanted to get better. And so, with Liron Yanconsky at hand, I would watch his videos every night before going to bed and learn a bit more about the skill and world of watercolor painting. From learning about the different artists to being taught techniques such as the wet-on-wet technique explained in detail, I would catch these tidbits of information and apply them whenever I could. With my Prang watercolor set, a dirty old flat brush, and a halved bottom part of a plastic bottle filled with water, setting up a painting session was quick and easy. One of the videos I remember was of him painting under the blazing sun, and one of the points my attention caught was that the heat made the water dry quickly, so either he had to do his wet-on-wet fast or use a technique that would synergize well with faster drying time. It was at that moment I had a conscious realization that watercolor was just water. Water being subject to the elements, temperature and variables, and was just exactly that. While it is true, understanding the properties of water was vital in the practice of painting in watercolor, for a long time until that point, I just kind of went with the flow on how all the materials behaved while painting, and only then consciously realizing they were basic stuff that were subject to the world and not just in the little space I was painting in. It was things like these that I took notice of when watching his videos. things that I didn't quite understand either shown or explained as something being simple or natural. It even made me thoroughly research on how the pigments worked, the gum arabic, and how it makes the watercolor do what it does. I am not entirely sure when I began to drift away from his content, but somewhere during the pandemic, my attention was drawn elsewhere. Many places, in fact. And I almost ended up forgetting about him. I wasn't thinking watercolor day and night anymore, since apart from that, my pursuit of art widened in variety. In pencil, watercolor, digital, comics, scale modeling, miniature painting, and crafting props. I was doing a lot of mediums to the point I was not going to master anyone at the moment. And so for a while, Liron Yanconsky was a memory that I kept in mind but did not actively pursue. Today, I look back on him, and while his influence on me was rather brief, being around a year or so, it was nonetheless impactful. He was one of the first people who showed me the wider world of watercolor painting, not just face value tutorials, but the actual love for the medium. The intricate way he would make videos about them, making tutorials not just for the sake of the tutorials, but he actually knew something about it. He actually learned of a method on the spot when painting, and he just conveyed it in a video. And that was something curious about him. That was something that maybe drew my attention to him more so than all of the other watercolor artists on YouTube. I appreciate how connected he is to this type of painting, that he has pursued this and stuck to it faithfully, and as of now, he is a well-regarded artist, a true professional of the craft. And while my pursuits have changed and narrowed down into something different, that connection, being intertwined with the medium, both professionally and personally, is still something from Liron Yanconsky I strive for. Writing this down, I really now realize that my time looking up to him was rather short, however, of course, impactful. That even after all these years, I recognize him as a significant memory that helped me. Honestly, besides Liron, Nita Engel is the only other watercolor artist that I follow around. Not much people in that space, yet it was enough to fill my need of people to refer to when doing watercolor art. Today, I still do watercolor, leaning more into portraits because even though I'm just copying faces, it exercises other aspects of doing art and is a good break from digital and comics. Since traditional drawing and painting always exercises my care, discipline, and decisive processes due to working within limits, which breeds creativity. So, in summary, Liron Yanconsky, he was a pretty great guy, great artist. I learned a lot from him even though I only actually consumed his content rather briefly in respect to my years of doing painting. Despite that, I will always remember him as one of the people who helped me in my art journey, of course, in the field of watercolor. Because again, I'd like to reiterate, he knew something about it. It's I think his videos, if I remember correctly, besides about other watercolor artists he reviewed or books he reviewed, his personal videos on watercolor, what he learned from doing the art itself, it's he saw a problem in his painting and then he just made a video about it because he solved it. And it was something he discovered by himself or learned by himself and then referred to other material to see if, whatever mistakes he encountered, other artists also encountered, and, mix and matched all those information to come to a conclusion and see if things are going all right. I think that's how it was. But anyways, I think that's all I can say for Mr. Liron Yanconsky. I will thank him if this video is a big, again, this is an artist appreciation video. This is a big thank you to the artists that helped me in my own art journey. Of course, they don't actually know me, but still, I would like to give my gratitudes, even if it's just spilled to the void of the internet. Anyways, again, that's all for now. Thank you for your time, and until then, see you.